Greetings and good day, everybody. Nickie Brown here. No matter where you are and what part of the world you are in, I hope that you are having a good day. Um, I know I look a little rough around the edges. I went to bed kind of late, and I could still probably go back to sleep, but usually once I wake up, I'm up. When it's up, then it's stuck. um, I just wanted to say this. We all have our seasons. We all have our ups and downs. And everybody handles life differently. Um, I remember being a teenager or a teenager young adult. And because there were certain things in the Bible that I gravitated towards, I just always operated a certain way. And one of those things is if you can't do anything about it, don't worry about it. Just give it up, right? Just pray about it and give it up. And people say that, but a lot of people don't actually do that. And I think I may have said this before. People have a tendency to stress and worry. And we all do. I'm not saying that I never do it or had never done it. But for the most part, when I was young, um, you know, I was, another thing I used to say, well, if God looks out for fools and babies, then God just gonna look out for me. But I really, in my heart, deep down, believed it. And so I would do things, and I just wouldn't worry about it. Like, I remember one time I quit a job and used my income tax to pay my rent. To put a security deposit on an apartment. And people were like, "Girl, why you do that? That's not gonna work out for you. You stupid. You crazy. Um, how you gonna pay your rent and blah blah blah." But it worked out. And my son and I, we still ate. And I think too, when you have little kids, and especially if you just have one, somebody will feed you. And at that time, I was still living in my hometown, and my mother lived around the corner. And I had friends. You know, and my house was kind of like the party house or the hangout house, whatever you want to call it, because nobody else had their own apartment except me. Um, and young adults like to drink and party, smoke, whatever. And again, I was the only one with my own place at that time. So, people would come to my house and chill out. And it worked out though. Now, as I became an adult, because other people have fears and insecurities, or other people would get mad at me and say, "Oh, well, you just don't care." And it's not that I don't care, but again, if I can't do anything about it, why am I going to stress myself out or worry about it? And so whenever anybody asks me, for my whole life, I don't care what I'm going through. Now, I may have had a select few people that I may have told what I was honestly going through, but for the most part, if I'm going through something, people don't know. Because I still smile and I still go through life as if everything is fine. Doesn't matter what I'm going through. Because I know it'll work itself out. Even if, and then too, I always ask myself, what do I need to learn from this? I always see everything as a lesson. Now, as I've grown here within the past few years, I realized that a lot of us lack self-love. And so when we're going through something, we are hard on ourselves. And we stress and worry and pace and snap at people, especially someone who Even though they're going through something, they're still able to smile and get through the day and make the best of the situation. People don't like that because they're not able to do that for themselves. Um, a lot of times people are not practicing self love because they're holding on to past trauma. We've all been through stuff. Many of us have been touched, male or female, by someone who we thought was supposed to love us. A lot of us didn't get love growing up, right? And so some people are able to, like I said, and I did brush my teeth and wash my face, by the way, if you're wondering. So, um, but I get itchy and rubby when I'm sleepy, so forgive me if I'm a little fidgety and all over the place. But a lot of us hold on to the past trauma. And you can tell a lot of times when somebody has trauma because they either have a physical problem, and that's one of the reasons why I started doing the chakras. And again, I know I need to finish that. But all the physical problems, it's a blocked chakra, right? So this causes physical problems and emotional problems. And again, you can tell when somebody's going through something. You can even tell because you can't fake energy. You can even tell when somebody's going through something and they're holding it in. Because again, it shows up in their body as pain, as a headache, as I don't know why my eye is twitching or whatever. Now, that eye twitching could be something different, but still. Um, as weight gain or as, you know, overeating, emotional, this is emotional eating. A lot of times we overeat when we're stressed. We eat junk food and things that, maybe don't serve a good purpose in our life. Processed foods. And we hold it in. My grandmother used to say, if something is bothering you and something's on your mind, you need to let it out or say something because if you hold it in, it'll just make you sick. And as a young woman, a young girl, I always thought she meant sick. But no, it makes you mentally, physically, and emotionally sick. And then people become snippy snappy and taking their frustrations out on other people. Or they're secretly seeking revenge against somebody who really just did something so minute and so petty, or something that they should in reality be able to move on from, but because they still have other trauma that has not been healed, they feel like, oh, I'm going to take control now, and I'm not going to allow anybody to do those things to me that happened in the past, whether it's conscious or subconscious, right? But their subconscious mind tells them, oh, you got to get this person back. And they're all up in their head, churning those thoughts around. Again, it could be something petty, like somebody accidentally stepped on their shoe. It could be somebody who said, I don't think that this is going to work out. And again, this person should be able to move on respectfully. But if they're still holding on to past traumas, again, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, especially for someone who grew up without one or both parents, especially for someone who grew up with an emotionally distant or absent parent, especially if something traumatic happened to you by your parent or from another family member or a mother, father figure, teacher, whatever that looked like, somebody who was supposed to protect you, and the parent didn't do anything about it or didn't say anything about it. Matter of fact, the parent may have gotten mad at you for it. Like those instances where, whether it's the biological father, the stepfather, or some other father figure, some woman had some man in her life and he touched the daughter or even the son and said, oh, you must have wanted it, you liked it, you provoked it. And they get mad at the person who was victimized by this aggressor. So then some of these kids end up being the aggressor to someone else when they become adults. This is how you get your R. Kellys. And some of these people will still kill and destroy. They'll move from state to state, even change their name, try to change their identity, and go on to do some of these same things to other people. Sometimes they change their identity so that they can do their best to change. But if they're not getting the proper help, change is not really happening. It's just them trying to suppress it and them holding on to it and then having an outburst. Now, counselors, so there's counselors or like master social workers, and they're really going to just sit there and kind of listen to you. Then you have your psychiatrists or psychologists. They're going to give you some medicine. Um, but I feel that life coaches give you solutions in a different way, give you tools in a different way that you may not get. And this is not to take away from medical professionals. That's not what I'm doing. Because in certain situations, especially if somebody was touched or abused and it was very extreme or severe, you need a psychotherapist, right? Because they're more specialized, and addictions too. It could be food addiction, sex addiction, porn addiction, um, drug or alcohol addiction, addiction to having kids, addiction to social media, whatever that addiction is, that you're not addressing what you need to address in your life. You're just using other things to distract you or give you that temporary sense of satisfaction, but deep down it's really not helping you, because again, it's only a temporary sense of satisfaction just to get you from one moment to the next. And all I've seen psychiatrists, I've seen social workers. So again, I'm not taking away from anybody's profession. Please don't take this the wrong way. I just know that each one has a different specialty, and each one is going to provide you with a different outcome. That's all I'm saying, okay? So please don't take it the wrong way. And again, if somebody has something very severe, like for young men who were touched by other young men, that's very traumatic. And what happens is there a nerve in the base of the anus that triggers this young man and confuses the young man, because young men don't develop as fast as girls do. And so because that organ may be stimulated, it confuses the young man, and he doesn't know whether or not he actually likes this. But it doesn't matter who's touching, the stimulation is going to happen either way. Like in that movie, not John Q, Antoine Fisher, the Antoine Fisher story. In that particular story, it just so happened to be a woman, but he was still young, and this was still traumatizing. Then he goes off to the military, and that really didn't do anything except make him angry. Right? So when that nerve is touched at the base of the penis, or when somebody forces you to do something, again, especially as a young man, this is confusing to the young man. Do I like this or do I not like this? They don't know. And a lot of times they grow up thinking that they like it. And they continue on to do this, whether it's out in the open or in private. But 9 times out of 10, whoever did it to them, somebody else did it to that person. And it becomes a cycle, especially if it was somebody in the family. These are generational curses. And it only takes that one person in the family to break that generational curse. But some people don't know that that's why they're here, to break that generational curse and not continue on that same behavior. There's a young woman, and I don't know her name. For years, though, she had been touched, and a lot of people who, and I'm not saying all, for people who, you know, may have been born this way, right? But I'm going to say that a large majority of people were touched, and so they grow up to live a certain lifestyle. So there was a woman who grew up with a homosexual lifestyle, but she wasn't really. It was just because she was touched and confused as a child. Now, when I was touched by women growing up, I didn't like it, and I knew that it wasn't right. So my brain told me, no, this is not right. So what I started doing was wetting the bed, or I would just lay there like a fish and keep my eyes closed and pretend to be asleep. And I'm sure they probably knew that I wasn't really asleep. But I let them go, I let them go ahead and do whatever they were going to do. And I just laid there and pretended to be asleep. And then they would just stop. Or, like I said, I would just wet the bed. And, that would gross people out. And maybe they would wake me up and put me in the tub or whatever the case may be. And change the sheets and all of that other kind of stuff. But I didn't like it. And sometimes if you have kids that wet the bed, they may be going through something traumatic. It may not be that, but it could be something else. Because again, everything is mental, emotional, and physical. It all goes together, even spiritual. So I would say that if you have a kid that wets the bed, you may need to look into that a little bit deeper and not beat your kid or yell at your kid because they wet the bed. Maybe you need to talk to your kid and find out if there's something going on with your kid. But what happens is, too, people are trying to repair the damage by being in control. I remember, and I know that this applies for both sexes, both male and female. One of my friends said, because she had been touched by her stepfather, and she said, and I've heard more than one person say this, but when my friend said it, it resonated differently. But basically, she said she became promiscuous over her life because she wanted to be in control. She knew that, she didn't want to allow anyone to touch her in that way again. So now she could have control and do it her way. Excuse me. And just give up her body, when she wanted to, how she wanted to. And she hurt some men along the way like she had been hurt, because hurting people hurt people. And again, that wasn't the first time I had heard that, but again, it just hit different hearing her say that. So again, just like R. Kelly, who had been touched as a child, for them, they're trying to redeem the person who touched them through other people, not realizing that's not necessarily the way that you go about it. Instead of, and people get mad when I say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Yes, the things he did were not right. But instead of him being in jail, or while he's in jail, he needs to be counseled. He needs to be coached. He needs to get some of that trauma up out of him. And again, I know that people, when they're hurting, again, they do things that are not right. They traumatize other people. They hurt either people, steal, kill, destroy. And I mean literally. There are some people who have ended people's lives because of their anger that they're still holding on to because of what happened to them in the past. Because they don't know what else to do, and they don't know how to handle those ways, thoughts, and actions. And again, some people get all up in their head. This was one of the things that came to me. Get out of your head. My cousin used to always say it like, come from up there. As if you're up in the attic, right? Or the attic of your mind. You're up in your head churning around thoughts that really don't serve a good purpose in your life, and they're illogical a lot of times. They make absolutely no sense. People will create, especially air signs, and I've done this because I'm an air sign, right? Aquarius. It's called delusions of grandeur or schizophrenia, right? People will sit and create a whole entire story, and it's just all in their mind. But because that's how their mind thinks, they attract that type of energy, because whatever you focus on grows. It's time to transform and let go of the past. You're up all night thinking fear and worry could become prophecy. Reach out for help. I wrote these a while ago, right? And last night I felt like I wanted to do this video. So I wrote these notes out for myself so I can do this video that I'm doing right now, right? And then I was looking at my dresser and I realized I had already written some of these notes down for myself to help me heal and help me transform, right? Your thoughts become things. Get out of your own way. A lot of times we're standing in our own way because we are, again, thinking things that don't serve a good purpose in our lives. Self-love, self-acceptance, self-respect, loving, and respect. The things that happen to us as kids or young adults or teenagers, it wasn't our faults. But sometimes we blame ourselves or take that responsibility on because we haven't healed. And then again, we're holding on to it, so we're hurting other people because we're still hurting because we haven't gotten the proper help. So like I said, there are different types of help. There's counselors, master social work, there's psychiatrists. And psychiatrists, really, they're just going to give you some medicine. And that's not what you need. You need to get that shit the fuck up out of you. Whether you write it down. Really, that's one of the things that you need to do. Write that shit down. What happened? Get you a journal or get you a notebook where you can tear the pages out. And once you get that story out, burn it. Or write a book. Toss it in the water. Meditate. I remember times when I first started meditating, which was like 2012, 2013. And some of the thoughts that I remembered had happened to me, I would cry like boo-hoo bucket tears. Crying. That shit is not easy, but it needs to be done if you really want to heal. Do videos. I don't know. You can decide to share it or not share it. Now, if you're sharing it, guess what? You're helping other people and you're focusing less on on yourself and what you've been through and more on helping people. But then once you get the story out, you have to change the outcome. What's your new story? Something new is in you. You're not sure how to turn it into action. Be patient. It will unfold naturally. Again, writing it down because you're not holding it in anymore. Like I said, my grandmother said if you hold that shit in, it's going to make you sick. So there's a lot of people who are mentally and emotionally sick because they're holding it in and never told anybody. Especially men. Because there's this pride and this ego. Let that fucking shit go, man. And I'm not yelling at you because I know you've been through a lot. And I know that it's painful because I went through a lot too. And I'm saying this from a place of love because I want you to heal. And I apologize if the curses are offensive, but I say this, I curse sometimes because I get frustrated because I see so many good people walking around hurt, trapped in their own mind, stuck. We need to be more ambitious, confident, have a sense of self-worth, have guidance, have the wisdom to grow and transform. Let go of the past. The way you've been doing it is not a healthy way to deal with it. Again, get it up out of you. Whether you write it down or you do a video or you go and talk to somebody who can give you the tools to help you heal it. Writing it down is one of the tools. That's for free. If you have a writer's block, I remember one of the first times, so me and one of my friends, we were going to write a book and we were going to call it Southern Secrets. Now, I'm from the North, but she's from the South. But it seems like families touching you is very common in the South. She and I both kind of agreed it was more so prevalent in the South than it was in the North. That may not be true. Again, I was touched by like babysitters, female babysitters, but she was touched, by her stepfather. And I met a whole lot of people who, in the South, it seemed like they were touched at a young age. And not for nothing, it seemed like, now, I did read the science about this one time. I don't remember where I read it, so I can't refer you to it because this was years ago, probably like 2006 or something around in there, right? We kind of correlated the fact that some Southerners had a more voluptuous posterior may have been due to the fact that some of them were touched. Now, of course, it can be hereditary, and we acknowledge that. But in some of those instances, because the woman's body, if the young girl was a certain age and she was touched, it makes her body think it's time for her to mature and fill out, and her hips start to spread to accommodate childbirth. And her breasts start to grow because, again, her body is thinking that it's time for her to start rearing children. And again, if you would like to do more research about that, feel free. But I'm telling you that I read about this. I don't know if it was a medical journal. I was in school at that time. I don't remember. But just like how the boy gets confused when he's touched, the woman's body gets confused and starts to grow in a way that would accommodate her having a child. Again, this does not apply to everybody because for some people it is heredity. And I get that. But in some instances, this may or may not be true. But again, whatever we focus on grows. It's the law of attraction. And a lot of people don't like to hear that. But this is not about blame. It's not saying it's your fault. That's something different. But what is happening is, let me use this as an example. When it comes to the law of attraction and thoughts become things and whatever you focus on grows, however you want to say it, right? If you want to use someone, let's say for money or a place to stay because you're in a certain situation at the time, you will be used. That's how it works. because that karma has to come back around to you. You may be used by that person or you may be used by somebody else, but you're going to be used because you're in that mind frame to use people. Whether it be for sex, money, a place to stay, food, um, a ride, whatever that looks like. But what is happening is the unhealed parts of you attract the unhealed parts in somebody else. Now, we're all on different levels. So you may be on a level 1, let's say, right? And there's still some parts of you that are unhealed, and this other person may be at a level 8 or even a 10, right? Like I would say somebody like a R. Kelly would be at a level 10, right? And although for you it's not as serious or severe or extreme, right? It's still some unhealed part of you that has attracted the unhealed part of them and kind of has accepted it or likes it, whether it's conscious or subconscious, has gotten used to dealing with it, whatever it looks like, because it could look different for everybody. But sometimes we form trauma bonds or we become codependent on this type of extreme behavior. So if you didn't receive the appropriate amount of love growing up, and you're still looking for love in all the wrong places, and this person didn't receive something in the form of love, it's almost like two magnets attracting each other, because like attracts like. Yeah, opposites attract too, right? But also like attracts like. And so again, this person's situation may be more extreme than yours. Like hoarding, there's levels. But it's still something about you that still needs to be healed that is attracting the extreme in this other person. So again, it's not about fault or blame, but it's the unhealed parts of you that's attracted to the unhealed parts in somebody else. Whether it's just you accepting this person or, or this person even being attracted to you. Because if somebody sees that you're healed and they're not, they don't like it. It disturbs their inner demons. So they set out to try to bring you down, to belittle you, to make you less confident, to make you less secure. Again, although you may be going through the same thing that they're going through, maybe there's some type of lack. Could be lack in your finances, could be lack in your love life, could be lack in any area of your life, right? But you're handling that lack with grace. You're not complaining about it. You're not worrying about it. You're just living your life like it's golden, right? You're smiling. Nobody knows what you're going through on the inside. Maybe you're, healing yourself, writing down your traumas. And you're going through that process that you need to go through. And you're crying if you feel like crying. But it's all private. You're doing what you need to do to heal. Right? Maybe you're talking to somebody. Maybe you have a counselor or a life coach that's helping you get through it. Whatever it is. But you're getting through it and you're making the best of every day. You may have a job that you don't like and you go in there every day and you just make the best of the situation. So you just handle things different. Whereas this person, they're taking their frustrations out on people. They're vengeful. They're spiteful. They're petty. They gossip. They lie. They cheat. They steal. Have killed. Will kill. Have cheated. Cheating. Emotional eat foods that are not good for the body, a bunch of processed foods, a bunch of fast food, a bunch of fried food, drinking, addicted to some drug, alcohol, addicted to a behavior, addicted to a mindset, whatever it looks like. They're just all over the place and they can't understand how you just walking around with joy. And then, too, if you're not complaining about maybe what you're dealing with financially, people will assume that you have an abundance of money, right? They just assume that you're not going through anything and that everything is okay for you, and they'll try to come and manipulate or use you because they think you have way more than you actually have, because you're actually walking around with joy and not complaining about what you don't have. So again, they'll try to sabotage you. Who do you think you are? How dare you have joy? How dare you get an education? How dare you do the things that I was afraid to do or too insecure to do? How dare you? How dare you have ambition and drive and motivation? How dare you? And they'll say little slick things to try to belittle you. And depending on you, you may say something slick back. You may ignore them and just go on with your life. And if you ignore them, that really pisses people off, because you're not allowing it to bother you. But then, too, they start to think you're a pushover and that you're naive and stupid and can be taken advantage of a lot of times, whether that's true or not. Because they don't understand. They're not trying to understand a lot of times either. But at the same time, people are operating from a place of need. So whatever their needs are, they may or may not be doing this intentionally. It just, again, disturbs their inner demons. It triggers their fear. It triggers their insecurity. It triggers their jealousy. And it triggers their envy. And they don't know how you're handling life this way. Because most people don't handle life that way. Most people, if they're triggered by something, they allow that trigger to manifest and show up in their life. And again, they yell at people. They take their frustrations out on people in another way. They're complaining all the time. You know what they're going through. Some people share everything. They overshare. They're overthinking about the situation and they overshare. And again, some of these same people they say they believe in the Most High, and they say they believe in the words in that book, right? Yet they still do the opposite. And they're not trusting and having the confidence that they should have that everything is going to work out. And everything does work out in divine timing. A lot of times people stress and worry and the situation ends up working out. So why did you stress and worry? You just put more emotion in your body that will later lead to some type of dis-ease. Or you'll end up having an accident. But it's going to show up in the body. Again, it could be a headache, getting migraines, some physical pain. Those are the unhealed parts of you. And yeah, anyone can find us attractive, but again, the unhealed parts of us usually attract the unhealed parts in someone else. And then if somebody had abandonment or rejection issues, and you turn them down or say no, they don't like it. And again, they want revenge. Although they should be able to just move on because it's really not that serious. There are plenty of people out here. But if they want to conquer you, again, because you're just walking around all happy and full of joy, they don't want to see that. I hope that this was helpful. I say these things not to trigger you to bring up old wounds, but to give you tools to help you heal them. Again, write it down. Write it down and burn it. Write it down and hold on to it. Write it down and turn it into a book. Write it down and throw it in the water. but get it out of you and stop just having it on your mind. Get it out. I've been saying this for years. Write it down. When people are going through stuff, especially if you have somebody that's going through something and they're telling that same story over and over again, at a certain point you have to stop telling that story because it's not helping you or serving a good purpose in your life. Now, if you're somebody who has healed and you're telling the story to give a perspective, because Lisa Nichols, she still shares her story, but she shares it in a way, if you can share your story and not cry or still be triggered by it with anger, then you know you at least begun to heal. There may be still some things lingering because you may meet somebody 10 years from now who triggers that same thing in you. But once you get it out of you, again, by writing it down, that's one of the most helpful tools, writing it down. And again, I've been suggesting this for years. Write it down. Get it out of you. And I think I had started saying with the Southern Secrets book, that's right. This girl and I were going to write a book and we were going to name it Southern Secrets, and it never came to fruition. But once I started writing, because she was talking about how she had been molested by her stepfather, and I was like, well, I never experienced anything like that, right? But once I started writing, then I remembered that, oh yes, you were molested. You were touched. It was just by women and not a man. And I just broke down crying. I had forgotten about it. I had pushed it so far down that I almost pushed it out of my mind. I buried it. And it reemerged. Because this happened when I was a child. And so I'm retelling this story. This was about like a 2006, like I said. And I couldn't write anymore. I stopped writing. But I had gotten that part of my trauma out and begun the healing process. Unbeknownst to me at that time. I mean, I kind of knew because, I've watched so many episodes of Oprah and, and other similar things. But when I think back, I didn't realize that, because I just stopped writing and I was like, I can't do this. I can't write this stuff down or write this stuff out, talking about a Southern Secret. Because I started out writing about something completely different. And then again, once I started writing that, the waterworks started. And I was like, oh, wow. I actually did that. Like my grandmother said, if you don't talk about it, you'll get sick. And she used to talk about pushing it down. And I pushed it down and I buried it. And then it reemerged. And no, it's not funny, but this is nervous and uncomfortable laughter because that's how my personality is, so don't judge me. Not being condescending, and yes, it actually happened. And everybody handles things differently. And this is how I handle things. One of the ways that I handle things is kind of laughing through it. Whether it's nervous and uncomfortable laughter or it's a genuine ha-ha laugh. But that just means there's things inside of me that I still need to work on. So that I don't get nervous and uncomfortable or shy. You know what? I had somebody tell me recently, well, you're not shy. How the fuck do you know what I am? I am shy. And I've always been shy. There are actors and actresses who are shy, but when it's time to do what you need to do, they show up and they show out. And I've been guided to help heal people, so I'm showing up and showing out. Is it easy? No. But again, this laughter is a sign that it's still uncomfortable for me. Again, sometimes you just have to do it. You have to know, okay, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I just need to get started. It's like working out. It may take you a while to get started, but once you get started, you start. If you're dealing with abandonment or rejection issues, I'm just encouraging you to get some of that stuff out of you. Whatever issues you're dealing with, feeling unloved, feeling unprotected, feeling insecure, whatever you need to do, I recommend writing it down, but you do whatever you want to do. Again, you can do a video. But me doing this video, this is me helping other people because I'm talking about the things that I've been through. Because other people have been through it too, and they're stuck in their heads about it, not knowing what to do. Just like being raised by a narcissistic family and not realizing it until you're almost 50 years old. Realizing that you've probably never been loved, and that's why you've been looking for love in all the wrong places for your entire life, and accepting things from people that were unacceptable. This is codependency and trauma bonding, and or trauma bonding, and or people pleasing. It could be any number of things in terms of defense mechanisms and trauma. And a lot of us, we need to live by ourselves for at least 6 months to a year and get our own thoughts together. A lot of people are living with somebody because at a certain point in their life they needed a place to stay, and they may or may not feel obligated. I remember one of my friends, he used to feel obligated because the mother of his kids used to come to jail and give him money and all of that kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah, but you don't owe her anything. You can be grateful and appreciative, but if this person is not serving a good purpose in your life and you're not getting anything from this relationship, you need to move on with your life and not be stuck unhappy with somebody just because they did something for you years ago. One has nothing to do with the other. You can be thankful and grateful that somebody did something for you, but you don't have to be stuck with that person. My nose ring is coming out, so I'm not digging up my nose, but I see it hanging. But you don't owe anybody anything, even if they did. Even your parents, if you choose to do something for them, great. You're a great child, right? But you're not obligated, just like they're not obligated to do anything for you. Once you're raised and you're an adult, an independent adult, and you're on your own, they don't have to do anything for you. So they don't owe you anything and you don't owe them anything. But again, if you choose to do, that's great. If you have that type of relationship and you're like, hey, mom, dad, let's go to lunch, let's go to dinner, well, come to my house, I'm gonna, whatever. Or if they need something and you have it, oh, here, mom, dad, here's some money. If you have it. But if you're putting them before yourself, that's not good. If you're putting anyone before yourself, that's not good. In terms of if it's hurting you. Now, I'm not saying, but really, if you're practicing self-love, no one should come before you. You should be putting yourself first. And that's not in a selfish way. But if you're taking care of yourself, you will be better equipped for your relatives, for your spouse, your children, and other people in your life. So when you write it down, if you choose to share, great. But if you choose not to share, just at least get it out you. And after you've written it down, like I said, burn it. If you have a fire pit, if you have an ashtray, if you go to the park, if you get a coffee can and put it in the coffee can. Another thing people do is dig a hole and bury it and put it in the ground. Now, in putting it in the ground, you can dig a hole and you can put what you wish to happen. You can say, I am healed. I am healing. I am perfect, whole, and complete. Um, and you may be able to say, other things that you want. And the reason I'm saying that is because Oprah says she met this young African woman who said she grew up in a village where the girls weren't allowed to go to school. So she wrote it down on a note that she wanted to graduate from college, and she put it in a coffee can and she buried her wish. And then her wish came true, so she dug it up. And then she had another wish. I want a master's degree and a doctorate, and so on and so forth. I want to move to the United States. And so all of her wishes did come true uh, by doing that. Now, I don't recommend you doing that trying to force somebody to do something that you want them to do. Like, people do love spells, and I get that. You're trying to get somebody stuck with you. That's not good because it really depends on that person and their mindset. That doesn't work for everybody. And then if it doesn't work and you've spent your money or you've spent your time doing certain things and it doesn't work, you'll be even madder because it's not working and you can't figure out why. So I don't do, you know, those type of rituals. There are people out there who do, but usually it backfires and it ends up not being a good thing. Because you should not even want to force somebody to be with you who doesn't want to be with you. And it's better if you learn to be open and honest and tell the person how you really feel or what you're really thinking. And I say this all the time. If you just need some money, say, look, I need some money and a place to stay. Be honest. And the person that you're looking for some money and a place to stay, again, they may not even have it the way that you think that they do. To keep it all real. But I said that to say this. Write it down, burn it or bury it. Um, I think you bury it under the tree if you want to get rid of it, and you bury it. I can't remember. You may have to look that up. Um, but there's a science to it. I don't know it, but I know something about. There's one if you want something to come to you, and there's another if so you want something to be away from you. But you're still writing it down and burying it. It's under a tree or under a rock. I don't remember, but I know I read it. I do a lot of reading, so and I, don't always remember everything that I've read. You know what? This is no, I'm not even gonna go there. I'm not gonna do that. All right, y'all. I love y'all. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that if you decide to write down your past traumas and burn them, that it gives you some relief. If you need to cry, cry. If you need to go somewhere and do this by yourself, then do it by yourself. But stop holding it in. I don't care how much of a man, macho you think you are. If you need to cry, God damn it, cry. Nobody's going to think you a punk. Who cares anyway if somebody does think that? I've been through that, because I grew up with my mother, telling me not to cry or suck it up. And. So I kind of grew up more masculine, not crying. And, I still don't show people my emotions, to be totally honest with you. Again, the only way you'll know if I'm going through something, somebody said, I remember years ago, and this was like in the 90s. Somebody said the only way you'll know if Nicki is going through something is if her phone is disconnected. And that still holds true because I'm not going to tell people, especially if I feel like I can't trust you with my feelings. You're not going to know. Nah, I'm good. For you to pick at me or tease me, I'm good on that, shorty. Nah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good, son. Nah. We not about to do that. We not about to do that, son. Know what I mean, shorty? Nah, we not about to do that. So, I have stuff that I've written down. I have written stuff down and burnt it. I've written stuff down and held on to it. I've started writing books. that I haven't finished because, like I said, started writing, and once the trauma triggered me, I was like, okay. Because you're telling a story, and as long as you keep replaying this story in your mind, the more you're going to be traumatized by it, and you're going to attract similar people into your life or similar situations. But when you learn to rise above it and heal yourself, it gets greater later. All right, I hope that this was helpful. I love y'all from the bottom of my heart, and I just want you to heal those unhealed places within yourself that are still holding on and still wanting to hurt other people because you are still hurting. Okay? Later.